Hi all.
Hey up.
For all our overseas viewers, welcome to sunny old England.
Welcome to England. It's it's raining. It hasn't rained like this in a while, but today it's raining. And we're on our way to local friendly gaming shop because we want to pick up some Imperial Guard to do some conversions. We've got some interesting models. We've done some 3D printing already. You've done some 3D printing.
Yes, yeah.
What did you have 3D printed? Well, I got you to do it.
So we're hoping to make some drop chutes. So we're off to get some Cadians.
Drop chutes, grav chutes I think they're called. Drop chutes for the drop troops. But we also have from Davik Designs, because he sent me over some of the files for his science fiction drop troops models.
Yeah.
And we're going to compare those to the to a Cadian conversion.
If we ever get into the car park.
Unfortunately, we're in a queue. There's a lot of. I'm not going to show you license plates, but there's a lot of cars in front of us. We are moving slowly, but everyone's waiting to go inside because it's a little wet. Welcome back to the brush. I'm Ed Scar.
And I'm Paul Allen.
And today we're going to be building some drop troops because we have some of the 3D printed Davik Designs drop troopers for various science fiction settings. But we also have
a box of Cadians with something rattling around inside it.
some sprues, I expect.
And yes, so it's got some resin printed graph shoots from Thingiverse.
So I did try to find the designer of this grav chute. If I can find the creator of this, I will put that up as well.
Yes. Brand new box of Cadians. We made a special trip for these.
To open that up.
It isn't big enough for an unboxing knife. It should be like a machete.
Is it open?
A bit more, but there. Ah, I've lost a finger. Ah. Right.
So as this is the new Cadian box, we have the special weapons sprue and various head options, which interestingly have hollows in the elbows, sorry, in the shoulders, whereas these kits, if you grab the arms, is solid on the inside. But this is not what we're looking at today, because this will be for a separate video. We just need some standard Cadians.
The reason why we're building some of these today was in the previous episode of Back to the Brush, we interviewed some of the guys who were making the drop troop fan codex.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that interview, link in the description, because that is a really cool, one of our best pieces so far, I think.
So we are going to make a unit, and we're going to incorporate these into a game we're playing over on Ed's channel.
In a few months' time, probably.
Yes.
We're going to film it tomorrow, today, whenever, but it will be published in a few months.
Yes, yeah.
Because that takes a long time to edit.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to these, and we're going to paint these up in Ed's custom chapter colour to match his little
Yes, because I painted a little while ago the one of Limco's drop dogs, the regimental dogs.
Drop dog.
And it was a drop troops pug, and that was a cool one. I should probably get that out for so that we can reference the colours. So yes, as mentioned, I have the drop troops pug.
Here he is.
That I printed a little while ago, the good doggo that it is, with, importantly, the way that I painted the visor with that kind of reflective effect. Red Cuffs, who's one of the guys working on the drop troops fan codex, he named my regiment the Rusty Razors because of the way that I painted that. And so what we're going to try and do, although it's sort of impossible given the size of these heads, but I'm going to try and paint some of the visors in the same way.
Yes, yeah.
Or at least a little bit. Were there bases in this box? Good. Okay. I was counting on there being bases. Yeah, so these are the Davik Designs kind of science fiction troopers that look very similar to the drop troops. One of the more famous options for drop troops designs, and here are Davik Designs grav chutes, which we will be gluing onto their back at some point. The drop troops are, of course, science fiction paratroopers, is sort of the way you look at it. So these are not jump packs in the same way as like a Space Marine assault squad would have jump packs. These are just like gravity retarders, so that as you get thrown out of a plane, you don't splat into the ground. But once you hit the ground, they sort of don't do anything else. Brother Bobtastimo of the Fan Codex mentioned that his models aren't that he doesn't model them with the
chute on.
the parachutes, because they don't actually affect the game. It's just like how they're deployed. But I'm going to get started, and I'm going to steal 5 of these bases, because I will make 5. I think I was correct when I said that this super glue has run out. But, sensible chap that I am, I brought a second. I brought the spare. That's another 17 pence in super glue down the drain.
No.
Okay, you need the grenade launcher's arms. I just got super glue on the plastic bits.
Oh, you did, yeah. I super glued myself to it.
It's fine, it'll scrape off, probably. Isn't super glue great? Don't you just love how super glue sticks straight away and doesn't like fail
It's instantaneous.
immediately as soon as you let go? Right. Nope, that failed again.
It's a shame there's not that much variation on the bodies, is there? They're all the same.
On the Cadian sprues, this is something that I have actually noted before. The infantry squad, the old and the new infantry squad, it's the same sprues, have 10 of exactly the same sculpt. If you look at the way that the clothes are folded and stuff, they are literally identically sculpted. The heavy weapons team, which has 2 members, both of their torsos are the exact same identical torso.
Mm-hmm.
The command squad, you get 5 models in the squad, but you actually get 7 torsos, you get 2 extra. 4 of them are the exact same. And so the only official Cadian torso that's like multi-part torso that's any different is the like the officer that comes with the command squad. But there are a few options for it. You know what? This is really annoying that this is not sticking. Super glue. Are you sure this is not just water that they put in a box, in a tube, with the word super glue written on it? Because that always seems to be what I get when I buy super glue. So just because these Davik Designs parts are 3D printed, there is a little bit of cleanup of kind of cleaning up where the support's attached, and then sometimes some of the odd little artifacts of 3D printing, you just move them out. It's not too big a deal really. But that's all you need to do to assemble the Davik Designs, is glue them to a base and glue their head into the shoulders, and we're sorted. Do you want the sergeant's head or just one of the loose ones?
This is just one of the normal guys.
Let's have the cool one that's got his chin strap unbuckled. You know that.
Cash guy.
You know he's cool because he's got his
Safety equipment not quite applied properly.
Yeah, that's how you know that someone's cool. Yeah, this is one of the older Games Workshop kits, which is surprising that they renewed it by adding in the extra sprue, but they didn't actually like redo the original sprue. They just kind of kept the original and added in the extra. You'd have thought, given how many they've sold, that they would have like damaged the mould by now, like worn out the mould. And they'd be like, well, it's time for a new mould. Well, we've got these extra things that we want to add in. But nope. No, that's not how they did it.
No. obviously because the drop pack in shot. The drop packs of resin, we'll have to super glue this particular part on. Can I have the skizzers then?
Clippers.
This clipper skizzers.
I have become very familiar with that particular lump on the back of the Cadian torso because I put cloaks on the back of Cadians all the time for reasons that people may be aware of. Is it giving you trouble there as well?
Yeah, it is not gluing. His head's fallen off.
Oh, I'm going to pick. Which head am I going to pick? Oh, most of the heads are kind of the same. Other than the special sprue, which we're saving for a separate video.
We're supposed to be professionals.
We are.
Here on Back to the Brush.
Here on Back to the Brush, we are not professionals because the word professional in modern use means that you get paid for it, and we definitely don't get paid for this. Wish I got paid for this. This would be cool, but no. This is just a hobby for us. Yep, that's one of the cool things about Davik Designs sets is that he'll often include male and female options. Interesting that the lore of 40k has always said that women in the Imperial Guard is totally fine. It's just you're a human, you're not an alien. Good. Here, have a las gun. Go get yourself killed. Whereas the actual models of Games Workshop have never been. People keep claiming that Games Workshop have tried and that they don't sell, which is weird because there are at least 3 companies I can think of off the top of my head that solely exist to provide female model options.
So I've said it before on the podcast. I don't understand why you would avoid any kind of variation. Something as simple as just putting a female version of the head on.
Yeah.
To give you.
Now, in defense of Games Workshop, sort of, the special weapons sprue that is now included with the Cadians does have female heads.
Nope.
Yeah, so it's not just me. It is other people as well that have trouble actually using superglue. I don't know why superglue is so.
Although conveniently she will balance, so she can just sit there, hopefully dry.
Okay. Well, what we shall do, we'll turn the cameras off and we're going to finish off building these models, and we shall reconvene when they're all built. Now that we've got them built, we're just going to quickly compare the two, but we'll show off the models properly at the end once they're painted. Certainly I'm very familiar with the Cadian models, and so just adding on the grav chute is very fitting for kind of the Games Workshop model. Whereas obviously Davik Designs are designed for other science fiction games, not necessarily 40k, and so you've got that slightly different aesthetic. But they're also a different size, as we noticed. So the Cadians, and most of Games Workshop stuff until very recently, 28-32. So 28mm to the eyes and 32mm to the top of the head. Whereas Davik Designs are 25-28. 25 to the eyes, 28mm to the top of the head. So they're slightly shorter and they're slightly thinner as well. So another thing to say about the Cadians is that they're very, like the arms and legs are very thick.
Yes.
Yeah, the uniform on the on Davik's ones are. How many times are you going to draw that model? Oh wow, that's funny.
Yeah. So we're going to go away and base and paint these. You
join us here at
Scar HQ.
The breakneck kind of if this was a film, this would be the awesome chase scene. This is definitely not the boring bit of the film that everyone skips ahead on. Isn't that right, Paul?
So what else falling asleep?
We're going through all the base coats on these models. We've got all of the armour and equipment painted in red. We're painting all of the uniforms ochre.
Yeah.
Kind of giving the skin an ochre base coat as well. Although we're not going to actually be doing the skin until kind of towards the end. But we're getting ahead on the base coats at least.
You can tell, particularly on the plastic ones, you can tell when you've gone from plastic to resin. When you're painting, for sure. Which I think harks back to you were saying the other day, like you didn't like painting on resin. You can tell the difference when you move from one to the other.
Yeah. I've actually kind of been thinking a bit more about this topic. I haven't fully worked out like how I feel about everything, but I certainly prefer painting plastic and metal models to resin models, and that's resin whether it's cast or whether it's 3D printed. And I haven't worked out necessarily, is it like because it's resin, or is it just because of the processes that they happen to go through?
Oh, whether resin in its own state is slightly porous or something.
I don't think it would be. Well, a cast resin, like a resin molded piece, shouldn't be porous. But I would expect a 3D printed resin piece to be porous because of the layer lines. But I wouldn't say dislike, but it's a case of I like resin the least. So I least like both resin printed and resin cast models equally. And I don't know if there is a difference between them. That's just something that, I mean, we've spoken about on the podcast before, and we'll talk about it again.
Yes. I mean, you can tell these are older designs compared to... The only stuff I buy new is Sisters of Battle. I bought a few of the Death Guard new, but most of my stuff is eBay rescues, you know. But you can tell the older sculpts, like particularly on these, like the sprues are massive. There's loads of gap in the sprue, which I would imagine is because it was designed by hand, as opposed to the computer doing it.
There's no optimization on it.
Which is odd, because you think they would have addressed that by now, even if it's just saving a few pence on plastic.
Well, it's almost that they're not saving money, but they're giving a better product in the fact that there's more options for the same money.
Oh, you mean getting more components on a sprue?
Yeah, but that's what they should be treating it as, but that's not how they're actually doing it. Because if they can get like five models on a sprue, if you can squeeze that to maybe 7 models with extra arms and extra heads, well, that's value added for your customer, but it's literally cost you nothing extra.
Yeah, so what is interesting is the mould lines. The mould lines are much thicker on these than some of the modern ones. I say some of the modern ones because I've had some bad ones.
I actually prefer the mould lines on the Cadians. They are easier to deal with.
They're definitely easier to deal with
than on the Sisters of Battle. This is something that I keep coming back to. Because people keep saying, oh, the mould lines are better these days, and they're not. They're smaller, but they're harder to deal with because they're in stupid places. Games Workshop aren't hobbyists, and they're not building things of hobbyists.
Again, I imagine it's more the computer's done it. And there's some kind of scientific formula used to, this is the best orientation to, reduce
but that's not
visible mould lines.
That's not necessarily anything to do with Games Workshop. That's just to do with the entire industry of injection molded has learned, and about how plastic warps when it's in certain shapes and how it cools down. If there's any injection molding companies out there, Please employ me. Because that, I mean, it's a horrible job, but we'll do it.
That's it. They're totally going to employ you now.
Yeah.
They were considering it, and then you said it was an horrible job. Like, oh no. Yeah.
I mean, they weren't considering it anyway. They're not even watching. No one's watching. There's like 3 people watching. For anyone at home who is actually watching this, should we get them to type something stupid in the chat, in the comment section below? Chat. It's not a live stream.
Ostrich.
Everyone who's still watching, type ostrich in the comment section, and that proves that you're still watching.
So, looking at the Davik Designs, as I've got here, these are, they're too small, and, as we've already covered, and I think that's kind of influencing me in this, purely because I don't think the detail would have been nicer if they'd been the 10% bigger. I think the details would have come out nicer on the resin.
That is the thing about 3D printing, is you can just like times by 1.1 and have them at 28mm scale, but these are designed for 25, so they're smaller. But in terms of the actual detail, what do you think about like?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of detail here. It's the helmet heads I don't like. I know what he's going for. That being said, I don't really like helmet heads on most models. Like when the Sisters of Battle, I always opt for a helmetless head.
I'm the same. I just much prefer having no helmets. I always used up all of the Orc heads without helmets, and the same with Tanith. My army there has mostly. There's a few Cadian helmets in there, but it's mostly unhelmeted. I wonder why that is. Do you think it's an interpersonal thing? You like looking at faces? Because you recognise a face as being a person, but a helmet, you don't. Well, we are finished with our little drop troop squad.
Yep.
We've got 5 Cadians with the added grav chutes and 5 of Davik Designs kind of science fiction paratroopers that happen to have a very similar backpack. So, what was it like to paint these up? Your first Cadians and some 3D printed models?
Yeah, I agree with you. Painting resin models is harder. The paint doesn't go as far.
I can't really tell how. That's the thing. It's hard to describe. I need to do it more so that I can learn what it is about the different materials. I
prefer the Davik Designs drop chute. They're very similar.
Yeah.
But his has got nicer, it's like ribbed piping going to the chutes, whereas this one's straight, and it's got a little bit more detail to it.
Yeah, it is a nicer. It's sort of like the same basic shapes, but then it's got more detail on it. Whereas the rest of the model, they're completely different from Cadian, certainly.
Oh God, yeah.
And they've got this they've got more of a. It's kind of like a cross between a skateboarder and a pilot. Do you know what I mean? With they've got knee pads and elbow pads, but then they've got like the piping on the front for a oxygen tank kind of thing. That's how they look.
Just figured out what that reminds me of. That helmet reminds me of Bible Man. I doubt you've ever seen, but it was a superhero series made by the church, and he was purple and he kind of had that helmet. So we did a basic brown wash over the sort of, what was the colour we used?
It's an ochre.
I think that's worked really well on the colour scheme.
Yeah.
We were, after we started painting them red, Ed had expressed concern that they were looking a bit traitor guardy, but I think with this ochre sort of brown washy, almost tanny, I think it's pulled it back out of the chaos.
Yeah, I still think there's a little bit. It's just I'm so used to having red and then kind of earthy colours, whether it's red and brown or red and, like in this case, red and ochre. That to me reads as a Chaos Traitor Guard kind of colour scheme. But these are loyalists, And these will be appearing, or will have appeared, depending on how time works, because we're editing a whole bunch at the same time, but we're having it takes a while to edit this stuff one at a time.
We're filming a whole bunch at the same time, not editing a bunch at the same time.
We're filming a whole bunch at the same time. Correct. And then I'm editing the videos, or we're editing the videos one or two at a time and releasing them as we go. So whenever this video goes live, we will put a link in the description to a battle report where we used the drop troops, or the other way around. We'll put a link in this description when the battle report goes live, whenever that is. But these will be featuring in a battle report, so that's why we've painted them up. And yes, we're using the pug. Probably not going to include the pug as
combatant.
Yes, it's just going to be on the table looking cool.
Yes, he's a unit. So we've had a lot of fun making or printing and painting up these guys. We'd like to thank obviously Davik Designs, who provided these files for free for us for review purposes, of course. And obviously we're looking forward to using these in a game, which we're going to be using the custom Elysian Codex. Is it Drop Troops or Elysian? It's
the Drop Troops Codex, but it's got Elysians on the front cover.
Yes.
Elysians are the most well-known of the Drop Troops regiment. So
yes. Yeah. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this little mini series from Back to the Brush, and we look forward to seeing you next time on
Back to the Brush.